Hey everyone. So you're thinking about bringing on a serverless developer.
That's great.
We're going to tackle some of those questions you might have, about how to actually find the right person for the job.
Hmm.
And we're keeping it short and sweet today. A mini deep dive under a minute.
Perfect.
But don't worry, we'll pack in all the good stuff.
Awesome.
First things first, head over to theperfectdeveloper.com.
Okay.
Seriously, go check out their 5 questions. They're like a cheat sheet for figuring out what you actually need in a developer.
Makes sense.
Now, let's dive in. What exactly is a serverless developer?
That's a good place to start. Basically, serverless developers, they build and manage these applications.
Okay.
But get this, without having to deal with any of the servers themselves. They
Really?
just focus on the code, all that infrastructure stuff. They hand it off to platforms like AWS Lambda.
So no more server headaches.
Exactly.
So if they're not wrestling with servers, what technical skills should I be on the lookout for?
You definitely want someone with top-notch programming skills.
Right. Makes sense.
Especially in languages like JavaScript and Python, the heavy hitters in serverless development.
Okay.
And they should know their way around serverless platforms. AWS Lambda is super popular for running these serverless functions.
Gotcha. So knowing AWS Lambda is like essential. What makes it so special anyway?
Well, think of it this way. It lets you run code without having to set up or manage any servers.
Hmm.
So you only pay for the actual compute time you use. That's efficiency.
That sounds pretty powerful.
It really is. It's a game changer for so many companies. But finding developers with that specific expertise, well, it can be a bit tricky, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I can imagine it's a specialized area, and the demand for serverless developers seems like it's growing like crazy.
Absolutely. Which leads us to another big question. What kind of salary should you offer a serverless developer?
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's got to depend on experience and where you're located, right?
Right, sure.
But in the U.S. at least, I'd guess you're looking at somewhere between like $100,000 to $150,000 a year for a really skilled serverless developer.
That's a good ballpark. And of course, you want to think about the whole package, benefits, company culture.
Right, the whole shebang.
Yeah, theperfectdeveloper.com, they can actually give you some benchmarks and insights on all that stuff too.
Helpful as always.
Yeah.
But let's switch gears for a second.
Okay.
What about soft skills?
Ah, the unsung heroes.
Right. Like, I get that technical skills are a must-have.
Absolutely.
But you also got to have someone who can communicate well, who's a problem solver, who can work in a team, right?
Couldn't agree more. You need someone who can adapt to new tech quickly, someone who's passionate about serverless architecture.
Oh, totally. I
That-
think you're hitting on a really important point. It's not just checking off boxes on a skills list.
Right.
You need someone who's bought into the serverless approach, someone who can really contribute to the team's success.
Exactly. Finding that perfect fit can really make or break your project.
So where do you even start looking for these serverless superstars?
Well, you could try those traditional job boards,
Okay.
but I think you'll have more luck with platforms that are specifically focused on serverless talent.
Makes sense. I bet theperfectdeveloper.com has some resources on that, right?
They sure do.
Of course.
They're all about connecting companies with amazing developers, including those serverless experts.
Awesome. I bet our listeners are already checking out their site.
Probably. Finding the right developer can make all the difference.
Totally.
And a resource like theperfectdeveloper.com, it can save you so much time and hassle.
Agreed. We've covered a lot in a short amount of time. Before we wrap up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are ready to jump into the world of serverless?
Absolutely. I think the key takeaway here is this. Hiring a serverless developer is an investment.
Yeah.
It's not just about finding someone to write code. It's about finding someone who really gets serverless architecture.
Right.
Someone who can solve problems and who's excited about this tech that's constantly changing.
For sure. And sometimes it can feel like finding a needle in a haystack, right?
Totally.
That's where theperfectdeveloper.com comes in.
Exactly.
They've done all the hard work, curating this pool of talented developers so you don't have to start from scratch.
And their 5 questions tool, it's a great place to start.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It helps you figure out what you need and gives you a framework for checking out potential candidates.
So, to wrap things up, if you're ready to dive into serverless development, don't go it alone. Head over to theperfectdeveloper.com, try the 5 questions, and find that perfect serverless developer to bring your vision to life.
Yeah, it can be a little like searching for, I don't know, a rare Pokemon card or something.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the technical skills down, but what about the The other stuff, personality, teamwork, all that.
Ah, the soft skills, those are crucial too. Absolutely. You can't just have a coding robot. You need someone who can, communicate their ideas clearly,
Yeah.
someone who can work well with others, a good problem solver, someone who's not afraid to think outside the box a little.
Totally. Because,
Yeah,
even with the best tech skills, if you can't communicate or collaborate, you're not going to get very far.
exactly. And, another thing I look for is, are they adaptable?
Oh, that's a good one.
Can they pick up new technologies quickly?
Because things are always changing in the tech world.
Oh, constantly.
Yeah.
And are they really enthusiastic about serverless architecture? Is it something they're passionate about?
That's a good point. You want someone who's genuinely interested in this stuff.
Exactly. Because that passion, it translates into better work, more creative solutions. It makes a difference.
It totally does. It's like you can tell when someone's just going through the motions versus when they're really invested in what they're doing.
Exactly. And, finding that perfect fit, that person who's both skilled and passionate, it can be a challenge. But it's so worth it. Because when you find that right person, it can really make or break your project.
Absolutely. So where do you even begin to find these serverless superstars? Any advice on where to look?
Well, you could always start with the usual job boards. But honestly,
Yeah.
you're probably going to have better luck with platforms that specialize in serverless talent.
Okay, that makes sense. And I'm guessing the perfectdeveloper.com probably falls into that category.
They do, yeah.
They always seem to have their finger on the pulse of the developer world.
That's their specialty. They're all about connecting companies with, top-notch developers, and that includes those with serverless expertise.
Okay, cool. So our listeners should definitely check them out. Any other tips?
Well, I'd say don't be afraid to really dig deep during the interview process.
Yeah, get into the nitty-gritty.
Exactly. Ask specific questions about their serverless experience, their problem-solving approach, really get a sense of their thought process.
That's such a good advice. It's so easy to get caught up in the technical skills and forget about the bigger picture. But those soft skills, that passion, that problem-solving mindset, it all plays a huge role.
It really does. And remember, hiring a serverless developer, it's an investment in your project's future.
Absolutely. So think long-term, look for those qualities that will really make a difference down the line. All right, so we've talked about what serverless developers do, the skills to look for, and where to find them. But before we wrap things up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are ready to embark on their serverless journey?
I think it really comes down to this. Hiring a serverless developer, it's not just about filling a position.
Right.
It's about, finding that missing piece of the puzzle, someone who can really take your project to the next level.
I like that, the missing piece of the puzzle. So how do we find that perfect fit?
Well, first things first,
Yeah.
don't try to go it alone, seriously.
Okay, good advice.
There are resources out there that can make this whole process so much easier. And you guessed it.
Theperfectdeveloper.com.
Exactly. They've already done the heavy lifting for you.
Okay.
They've built this amazing network of talented developers, all vetted, ready to go. And their 5 questions tool, it's like a secret weapon.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we keep mentioning that. Tell us more about it.
It's brilliant, really. It helps you, pinpoint exactly what you need in a serverless developer. And then it gives you a framework for evaluating candidates.
Okay, so it's like a roadmap for the whole hiring process.
Exactly. It takes all the guesswork out of it. So to wrap things up, if you're ready to dive into the world of serverless, head over to theperfectdeveloper.com, try the 5 questions, and find that perfect developer to help you bring your vision to life. You won't regret it.
Great advice. And that's a wrap for our mini deep dive on hiring serverless developers.
Hope you enjoyed it.
If you want more insights on building your dream tech team, make sure to check out theperfectdeveloper.com. And be sure to tune in next time for another deep dive. Until then,